Hi everyone, Jess here, and today I'm joined with Julie Shainock, Global Leader of Travel and Transportation at Microsoft. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Jess. I really appreciate it.
Of course, it's great to have you back. So last year you interestingly said that the industry is not taking advantage of technology as much as it can. Have you seen any improvements since this time last year? And if not, what do you think is holding the industry back here?
Well, I'm happy to say that I have seen some improvements. With our Teams platform, that single pane of glass for communication and collaboration, we really are seeing a lot of improvements, doing more with less. So I think from that standpoint, the ability to, have collaboration around the turn times for airlines, we're seeing a lot of activity there. We're starting to see a lot in the network operations. We have communication going on to the NOC, the SOC, as well as moving into planned and unplanned, no, scheduled and unscheduled maintenance. Sorry about that. And so we are seeing a lot of improvements in that area. The other thing I would tell you is we did make an announcement yesterday around partners, and we've actually done a lot of the heavy lifting in this area, especially around the turn time. So what you have to do is use natural language. You can work in your own tenant. And we're seeing this is going to be a huge opportunity for the airlines to really take advantage of technology. But these are the areas where we're starting to see a lot of that, and we're moving directly into Azure OpenAI and taking advantage of the capabilities that it has.
Fantastic, and I'm picking up again on that generative AI. Which stage of travel do you envision it having the greatest impact, and why do you think so?
I think there's a lot of different use cases, and probably, generative AI, Azure OpenAI can be used in so many different areas. But I do think as you look at the area around natural language search, that's an obvious area. So that would be in that, pre-travel environment. And then I think as you move into the, planning and booking, there's also other advantages you can take advantage of there. I think there's the contact center. Depending on whether you run into some, irregular operation on day of operations, I think helping the contact center is also a huge area for generative AI, Azure OpenAI to take place as well. So there's just a lot of different areas, I think in the post area as well. And then gathering that information, as much information about the passenger or the guest is also a crucial area as you start to move forward.
Fantastic. It looks like there's with generative AI, there seems sort of limitless possibilities, and it feels like we're really early days of seeing what it can do for the industry.
I really think it is the early days of what you can do in the industry, and I think it plays both a role on the customer experience side, because look at, day of operations, as long as you have a smooth travel journey, your passengers are all happy. It's when you have the irregular operations that, you can really impact the customer sat of a passenger or a guest. So I think, so generative AI is going to play a role there, and it's also going to play a role around the operational efficiency areas as well. So there's just a plethora of opportunity in order to do this. And I think also the ability to do more with less, looking, being able to go through and summarize information, being able to ask questions in natural language. This is only going to improve the efficiency of your employees as well. So it just goes across the enterprise in that environment. So it's exciting to see.
Absolutely. And sort of looking at interconnected systems, can you highlight some examples where the industry is beginning to collaborate more, and how is this reflected in results?
So I think it's starting to collaborate in a lot of ways. I mean, when we look at personalization at the guests or the passenger level, I think there's still a longer way to go. But I think as you look at some of the decentralized identity capabilities, those are going to play directly into some of the better collaboration to take place. So that's going through security and border and passport control and boarding. You have biometric biometric boarding. That the decentralized identity piece is I own my data and I can opt in with an airline, with a hotel, with Uber, and it all becomes seamless at that point in time. So I think that's where the industry should be moving, and so that would be one area. And the other area that I talked about earlier is really all around the teams area. So think about you outsource some of the capabilities below the wing and even above the wing with it catering and cleaning and those kinds of things. You could be outsourcing some of those. So having all of that single pane of glass and that single communication collaboration environment is what's going to allow all that to work. Then applying Azure OpenAI on top of that, just gives you so many more capabilities that we'll see come to pass, within the industry. And we're just at the forefront of applying that. We do that with one of the airlines in the US, and we can actually look across the channels. And this is a turn example. You can look across the channels. You can actually look at all the different information going back and forth and determine what flights might possibly be late, what flights might possibly have to be canceled. So this is exciting to look at. And then again, this is also moving into the scheduled and unscheduled maintenance area, and then also interfacing into the NOC and the SOC.
Fantastic. And you mentioned there about data and identity, and we're seeing some really exciting things open up in that space. But there's also quite a thoughtful nuance geographically, as I understand it, with different regulations on data. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out over the next few years.
Yes, and everything Microsoft is building is GDPR compliant. So it all complies with EU regulations, and we build things that way so it applies on a global basis. And data is that fundamental piece that has to be at the base of everything we're building, because that's going to allow us to take the information and draw the insights that we need.
Fantastic, it sounds so interesting. And I can't let you leave without speaking about sustainability, because that's such a hot topic in the industry at the moment. How are we seeing tech open up possibilities when it comes to mediating environmental damage?
So I think one of the things around sustainability itself is Microsoft has its own cloud for sustainability. I think the other piece is the airlines now have to report on what they're doing around sustainability. So I think that also adds another level. We certainly can help. Again, you've got data as that fundamental piece, and we can help from that standpoint. We've got partners like Publicis Sapient who can help in that area as well. I think cloud scope 1 and 2 are a little more tangible and easier to actually develop and utilize the data. As you move into scope 3, I think you're starting to see companies get ready with their data, and this would be companies across the board in any industry who have to do reporting. So just looking at an airline part and knowing how it was created and what it was created from, and taking that from from birth to death, or cradle to grave kind of thing. I think that is the part where you're starting to see customers, airlines, bring that data together, and that has to be brought together, and it's very difficult across all the different aspects of the journey of a part, just from that aspect. So that's where I think it's more difficult, but I think you're starting to see the airlines really move into that area. So it's really exciting to see, and certainly at Microsoft we have the capability to help in that respect as well.
Fantastic, it sounds so promising, and I hope if we speak again next year that I hear even more improvement.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me, and look forward to the conference.
Thank you for joining me.